You're listening to the YOLO Revolution podcast. In today's episode, we're talking about the 9 ways fear is holding you back from living your best life. And unfortunately, for most of you, it's disguising itself as a bunch of different things, so you don't even know that it's there holding you back. So you're not going to want to miss this episode. Stay tuned. Hi, I'm Candace James. If you're ready to transform your life, to live with purpose, to experience more joy, to follow your dreams, and finally do what you've been waiting for someday or one day to do, then you're in the right place. Consider this your warning that you only live once, which is why I've spent the last 12 years using mindfulness-based tools to create and live my best life, traveling the world, becoming a published author, building a successful business, creating joy on demand, and helping others do the same. In this podcast, you'll learn that the only thing getting in the way of living your best life is your own mind. Join me to discover how to reprogram your subconscious and harness the power of your mind so that anything you dream in life can become your reality. Welcome to the YOLO Revolution. Welcome back to the YOLO Revolution podcast with your host, myself, Candace James. Today we are talking about fear. And this is not the first time that I have talked about this on the podcast, but I will never stop talking about it on the podcast. I will never stop talking about it anywhere because fear is 100% the number one thing that's holding you back from actually getting out there and living the best version of your life. And so today, I'm going to list out a bunch of different ways in which that's happening because unfortunately for most people, we're just living our lives and we are seeing these fears as realities. When in fact, fear is a belief. It's a belief that something now or in the future could cause you harm. And so when we start to look at what are our actual fears, are they warranted? Is it actually causing us danger? Or for the most part, we have created a mental story, a program in our mind, a belief that is telling us that this is bad, scary, we should retreat. And in actuality, there's nothing to actually fear. And so today, we are going to be talking about the 9 major ways that you can start to see fear creeping up in your life and holding you back from living your best life. Whatever that means to you. Okay, so without further ado, let's just hop right in. And number 1, and these are not in any particular order. One is not more than the other. Some show up for you more than they show up for that other person. Versus me versus whatever. Okay, so these are just thrown out there in any order. We're going to be talking about just 9 particular ways in which fear shows up. And so the first one is the fear that something bad is going to happen. What if on my way down the stairs, I accidentally trip and fall and I tumble down and I break my neck? What if? What if I hop on that call with a potential client and I completely lose track of what I'm saying and I don't make the sale? What if I park my car on the side of the road and it gets hit and then it starts to snow and it gets snowed in? Like, I don't know. I'm just kind of going wild here, right? What if is usually how these things happen. Well, what if this happens? Well, what if that happens? Well, what if? Okay, our brain loves to create what if scenarios, and it does that because that's its job. Our brain creates what if scenarios because it is programmed to look out for you. It's programmed to ensure that you're safe. The brain's number one job is to keep you alive. And so it often goes off on these tangents trying to think, what if blah, 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 bad thing happens? And 99.9% of the time, those bad things never happen. And so if we actually allow ourselves to get caught in those fears, in those beliefs, in those what if statements, then we're never going to move forward and do the things we really want to do in life. And so we scare ourselves, we create scenarios that have not happened, might not happen, probably will not happen, and we create these scenarios, and so we just don't take action. I've had this experience when, I was with some friends recently. They came and visited, and I took them to Niagara Falls, and we're standing there having a chat, and they had this young child who was about 1 year old in a stroller, and we're walking along the path next to the Niagara Falls. And, the Niagara Falls are pretty intense. If anybody's listening has ever been there, they're pretty intense. They're very aggressive falls, very powerful. And we're standing there and we're looking over. And all of a sudden, my friend says, "Oh my gosh, what is wrong with me?" I said, "I don't know. What's going on?" She says, "I'm just standing here right now looking over at the falls. There's a big railing that goes up to our shoulders almost, just underneath." And she says, "All of a sudden, I had this fear that I was going to knock my child into the falls." And now, for those of you that've been there, it's impossible unless you actually were to pick up the child, like hang them over pick them up over the big railing and then let go and drop them. It's a solid railing. You cannot fall through the middle, nothing. So in order to do that, she would have had to pick up the child, unbuckle them from the stroller, pick them up, put them over the thing, and then drop them and let them go. And yet the mind is like, well, what if they fall in the water? What if the stroller tips over? And so right then and there, thankfully she could catch herself to say, okay, well, that's clearly not even possible. And that's why she could laugh, right? We had a little chuckle about that because it's not even possible. But our mind is constantly trying to make 100% sure that we're not going to die. And so it starts coming up with all these scenarios. And my teacher, the Buddhist monk that I stayed with at the resort, says the number one blockbuster movie of all time is the movie inside of our minds. We are so creative in making up stories that could, might, possibly, but probably won't happen in the future. And so thankfully in this moment when she thought, oh my gosh, what if my kid falls into the falls? She could see in that moment, okay, wait, never mind. That's logically impossible. I would have to pick her up and throw her, right? Which obviously she's not going to do. And so we were able to see in that moment how silly the mind was. But oftentimes when we have these fears, what if I take that job and it doesn't work out? What if I, spend money on a house and then I get fired from my job and then I don't have any this and then blah, 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 right? You go down this whole spiral thing. And unfortunately, what we can't see in that moment is how it's clearly not true. Like we could at the falls. We could see, okay, there's clearly no way for the child to fall through. And so the difference then is that our mind just accepts that as a reality and says, okay, well, we can't do that because that's too scary. That's going to end badly. And so we just allow that to attach. But we have to remember that we have so many ideas of what could go wrong, and most of them will never happen. And so if you're living your life based on the possibility that something bad, XYZ, is going to happen at whatever time, maybe possibly in the future, then you're never actually going to take the steps you need to get to where you want to go. And then when you look back at your life and nothing really major like that happened, that's on you, right? That's on you. We only live once. So how are you spending your days? And are you spending them riddled in fear of what possibly might happen that's bad? Because that's no way to live. Another one, inadequacy. Inadequacy, right? I'm not good enough. That feeling of I'm not good enough. I'm inadequate. I won't be able to cut it. How often have you stayed in one place because it felt like, oh, you know what? I know I can do this. So I'm just going to stay at this level. I'm just going to stay here. I'm not going to try to advance because what if I can't do it? What if I'm not good enough? What if I don't have the skills or abilities that I need in order to do that? I work with entrepreneurs and watch them each and every day have to confront this fear. What if I'm just not going to be good enough to do this? Well, you won't know unless you try. So you can either sit around and you can have this life of how, oh, well, I'd really love to do this, but what if I can't, right? We often get stuck in this, what if I can't? Well, what if I can't? What if I'm just not good enough? What if I can't do that? Oh, you should ask for that raise, or you should ask for that promotion and get that new job. Yeah, I would, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to cut it, I know I can do this job. So, and I'm good at this job. So, you know what? Maybe I'll just stay here because that one I'm just not so sure. I don't know if I can cut it. And so we often just stay in this place of complacency to avoid having to deal with whether or not we are able to do something else, able to do what we truly want in life, able to reach that next level in sales, able to get that promotion, able to talk to those people that we want, or, write that book or go back to school or finish college or whatever it is. We just say, meh, I'm just not sure I'm going to be able to cut it. What if I'm not enough? So I'm just going to stay here. And that's it. And when you live your life in that way, guess what? You live a life that's pretty much the same year after year after year after year. You continue to wish for the things that you want, but never actually go get them. And it is what it is. So to that, right? This feeling of inadequacy. What if I'm not good enough? What if I can't cut it? Well, you just won't know till you try. And so you can live your whole life believing that you're not good enough, or you can go out there and prove to yourself that you are. And worst case scenario, you're like, oh yeah, that's not for me. And then you move on and you do something else. See, we often think that whatever it is that we fear is the end all be all. But oftentimes what we fear is just information, right? It's not the end all be all. It's just information that says, that didn't work. Or, all right, maybe that's not the best job for you. Or, maybe that person isn't keen to hang out. Okay, great. Thanks for the information. Now let me go do something else. Do you know how many things I've done in my life that I suck at? And do you know how many things in my life that I'm really good at? A lot. And I wouldn't know that unless I actually just went out there and did it. And, as I get older and as I've tried all these different things and done all these, I've done so many different types of jobs in so many different industries in so many different countries. And, I just keep pushing, seeing what I can do. And the more that I realize I can do, the more of a hot commodity I become. The more I can do, the more becomes available to me, the more I try and see what I'm capable of. But if you never try to see what you're capable of, you'll just never know, and you'll continue to believe that you can't cut it, and you're going to continue to stay exactly where you are. And how's that working for you? Is that where you want to be for the rest of your life? And that brings me to the fear of change. The fear of change. So many people that I know are out there saying, God, I wish my life would change. I wish my life could be different in this way or that way or the other way. But then the number one thing that's actually holding them back is the fear of the change. Fear of change because we don't know what it's going to be like. Well, I'm comfortable how I am. Yes, I want that to be different, but what if it's worse? What if I don't like it as much as I thought I would? What if I then want to change my mind and do something else? You know what? Maybe it's just better to stay here. I know what this feels like. So I'm just going to keep doing this. It's painful and I don't really like it, but what if it's worse? And the more that we think that way, the more we just never change. And here's the thing. We fear change so deeply, and yet change is the only thing in this world that we can be certain about. Change is the only certainty that we have in this lifetime. I don't know what's going to happen 5 minutes from now. My house could catch on fire and everything I had planned for the next long while would be completely changed, right? I could get up, fall down, and break my wrist. I have no idea. Then I'd have to call in tomorrow and I couldn't do the work that I was supposed to do and be like, oh, sorry, and change my clients and do this stuff, right? Like, because now I'm in the hospital. I don't know, right? There's so many different things. Change is always happening. We fear change, and yet it's always happening. Right now, inside of your body, cells are dividing, cells are multiplying, some are dying, some are being born, all sorts of stuff is going on. You will literally never be the same person that you are now, ever again. Each and every moment, you are getting older. Your body is physically changing. The world around you is changing. Change is literally always happening. So rather than fear change, how do you embrace the change? Understand that change will happen no matter what and move with it. Use it to your advantage. Wow, change is always happening. Let me jump on that train and change my life the way that I want to change it. You can't run away from change, so stop fearing it. Change is always happening, and when we embrace it, we move forward. And that brings me to another fear. Our fear of uncertainty, which is similar to change. It goes in there, right? Uncertainty. The fear of uncertainty, I think, in the last year and a half has really been brought to mind for a lot of people. A lot of people were depending on this. This is what happens. I get up in the morning and I do this, and I go here, and then I do that, and then I blah, 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 and I go to the gym and blah. And all of that was ripped away from us. It wasn't certain. Nothing felt certain. Will I ever be able to hang out in groups with my friends? Will I ever be able to go back to the stores? Will I ever be able to go back to restaurants and planes and trains and automobiles and all that good stuff? We found out this year that nothing is really ever certain. Just like change is always happening, because change is always happening, nothing will ever be certain. We can plan for the most likely thing to happen. I'm likely going to wake up tomorrow, so I'm going to plan for it. But I cannot say with 100% certainty that I will wake up tomorrow morning. It's never 100% certain. And so when we accept that change is always happening, we must simultaneously accept that nothing is certain. And so how do we become comfortable in the chaos? Because life is chaos. Everything is always changing. Nothing is certain. You can't depend on anything. And so how do you just be okay with that? And not only be okay with it, but you need to embrace it. Jump into it. Be like, okay, well, if everything's always changing, then everything can always change for me, for the positive, for the good. I can make change happen. I can make my life happen in the way that I want to. And we're going to be talking about that in a couple of episodes from now. But, how do we make the most of the change and the waves and the movement of our earth, of our universe, of our energetic fields to propel ourselves in the direction of life that we truly want to go? And I can tell you this, it's not by resisting change. And it's not by believing that everything is certain. Instead, we must realize that everything is always changing, which means nothing is certain except for uncertainty and change. And how do we embrace those and move forward with those? And how do you see that as the beauty of life? There's always something new and beautiful and amazing available around the corner. There you go. All right, another fear. Another fear is the fear of failure. We already had the feel of, what if I'm not good enough? Now, inadequacy, right? So we talked about inadequacy earlier, and that can be more than just, oh, I'm not good enough for, to do this job or whatever, right? What if I'm inadequate in a relationship? What if I'm inadequate wherever? And the same goes for failure. What if I start a business and I fail? What if I go back to school and I fail? What if I try to write a book and I fail, right? What does fail mean? It just means you didn't get the result that you were aiming for. And so, do you know how many times a baseball player then technically fails on the field each time? Each time that pitch is thrown to him. Now, I don't really watch baseball, so I apologize if I'm butchering any of this language, but anytime a ball is thrown to him while he's standing behind home plate and he's ready to swing that bat, what is his intention? His intention is to hit a home run. But how often do they actually? So if you considered every time you didn't hit the ultimate goal a failure, then those people would probably be pretty depressed. Right? We don't always hit exactly what we're aiming for. You know what, I'm going to make, and I've seen this with the entrepreneurs that I coach, is like, I'm going to make $200K this year. I'm going to make $200,000 this year in my business. Okay, great. At the end of the year, they get to 175, right? And let's just say, like the last year, they were making like 50, 60K. Now, all of a sudden this year, they're like, okay, I'm going to hit 200K. Awesome. Cool. Great. At the end of the year, they're like, oh my God, I didn't hit my goals. I only hit 185,000. Wow. So you went from 70,000 last year to 185,000 this year. And are you going to consider that a failure? No. Why would you consider that a failure? My favorite phrase around that is, you either get the results you wanted or the lessons you need, right? I think James Wedmore always says that. He's like, you either get the results. Yeah. You I always screw these kinds of things up. You either get the results that you wanted or the lessons you needed. So either way, it's a freaking hashtag winning, right? So I'm bringing that back. Winning, either way, you're winning. You say, you know what? All my life I've dreamt of becoming a chef and opening a restaurant. And so I'm going to go to chef school. And you go to chef school and you go there for 2 years even. And you're like, I love this. This is amazing, And then you start to work in the restaurant industry and you're like, I hate this. And you're not good at it. It's too high pressure. It's too high whatever. And then you're like, oh my God, I'm such a failure. No, you're not. No, you're not. You are absolutely amazing at putting your mind to something, following through, getting to where you want to go. And just because it wasn't what you thought doesn't make you a failure. Or maybe you just can't literally make something work. And that's fine. But as Thomas Edison said, I didn't have 10,000 mistakes. I just found 10,000 ways that didn't work. Something like that, right? So when you use a quote unquote failure as an opportunity for a lesson on how things could be better, how you could improve, what you actually, at least you're finding out what you don't like or what you don't need or what you're not good at particularly or whatever, right? And I think also too, like what you're not good at. Like you can be good at whatever you want if you put enough time and effort into it. But you have to want it. People that are, exceptional guitarists or, professional ballet dancers, they didn't just wake up one day and be like, wow, I'm so good at this. It's a passion. It's something they spend a lot of time on. They practice and they practice and they practice. And with practice, you can do anything. But what happens to most people is that the first time that it doesn't work out, they give up. Oh, see, told you, that's not working. I'm such a failure. I'm out. And in fact, so many people are so scared of failing that they never even start. And then they're actually realizing their worst nightmare just right then and there. I'm so scared of failing, I'm never going to start. Oh, well, you failed. Newsflash, you failed. So sorry about your luck. You should have at least given it a try. So there you go. Fear of failure. All right. Another one is the fear of losing control. And how some of these, you're going to notice that a lot of them are intertwined, right? So you can have one with the other and a little smidge of this and a sprinkle of that. It's like a nice cocktail or soup of like amazing fear. And this one is, losing control. The fear of losing control. The fear of losing control. Losing control of what? Well, probably of the idea that things are certain. Losing control of, your belief that by not doing anything different, you know what's going to happen. Right? Losing control, right? We don't want to lose control. This actually shows up a lot in relationships, romantic relationships in particular. We don't want to lose control of ourselves, of our feelings, of, anything like that. And so as people start to fall really deeply for someone, they start to retract because they start to feel out of control. They're so emotionally connected and in touch with this other human that they start to feel like they are losing control of their own emotional, their own emotions, etc. And that can be really scary. We can feel like we're losing control of our future, right? It really comes to losing control, uncertainty. It's all the same thing. We like to believe that we're in control when in actuality, we're in control of nothing except for our own thoughts and behaviors. And that's it. We are only in control of our own thoughts and behaviors, and yet we think that we're in control of so much. Our life, our job, our savings, our house, our whatever. But that could all just be wiped out in a moment's notice. And then the only thing you have left is your own thoughts and behaviors. So we fear losing control, but control is not something we even really had in the first place. Unless, of course, you're talking about your own thoughts and behaviors. In which case, you do have control, particularly when you practice meditation and mindfulness and all that good stuff. So the fear comes from believing we don't have control over things that we actually don't have control over for the most part, right? And the things, if you are, fearing that you're losing control of your emotions or whatever, again, that can be reined back in with your meditation and control over your thoughts, right? But that brings me to another one, is the fear of getting hurt. We're scared of getting hurt. We're scared of being rejected and hurt and feeling sad. Feeling sad doesn't feel good. So we just do everything to not be rejected and to not get hurt. Now, these are two different ones. I'm throwing them in here together. The fear of rejection and the fear of getting hurt. But often they go hand in hand. We are so scared of getting hurt because our brain's like, no, that doesn't feel good. Let's not do that. Let's avoid it at all costs. So what do? We don't tell people the way we feel about them. We don't tell people when we're actually like, and this is funny too, right? We are scared of getting hurt in a bigger way. And so we actually don't tell people how we really feel because then we're scared that they're not going to react properly. Or maybe they're going to not like the way that we said that. And so then they're going to reject us. And so we'd rather sit in the hurt, but we're actually really scared of getting hurt. But man, if I could just take back this control over everything, that would just be so rad. Blah, blah, blah. We get caught in this circle of fear. All of these different things are just fear, right? Fear of ultimately, at the end of the day, what is all of this coming down to, right? We've got the fear of something bad happening, the fear of inadequacy, of change, of failure, of uncertainty, of losing control, of rejection, of getting hurt. And I haven't said this one, but judgment, right? The fear of judgment. Other people saying, oh my gosh, who is this person? Who do they think they are, right? Fear of what people will think of your life choices. Fear of what people will think if you tell them that you like them. Fear of what people will think if you start a business. And fear of what people will think if that business doesn't succeed. We're always sitting in all these different types of fear. And they all feed off of each other. And ultimately, at the bottom of all of it is, well, I just don't want to feel like, that icky emotion where I'm just like feeling sad. Okay. So that's really at the bottom of it, right? What's going to happen if somebody says to you, if you say, I am in love with you, and someone says, well, I don't love you. You're going to feel sad, and you're going to feel like, oh man, okay, that's not what I wanted. What's going to happen if you start a business and then it doesn't succeed? You're going to feel sad. Oh man, that's not what I wanted. What happens if, you go for your dreams and then, you go for the change, you change your life, you get there and it's not what you wanted? Oh, well, now I feel kind of sad. Right? We are so adverse to this feeling of sadness, and I get it. Like, it's not the best feeling in the world, but for this, we fear this sadness, this quote unquote negative feeling. We fear it so much that we never give ourselves the opportunity to feel full and true joy. Because what if we take all of these things and we flip them around? What if instead of something bad happening, we think, what if something really amazing, freaking awesome happens? What if I get everything I've ever wanted and more? What if instead of thinking you're inadequate, that you can't do it, you think, heck, freaking yes, I can do it? And what if you truly can? And you're able to do everything you've ever wanted and more? And what if that change you've been fearing? Oh, what if it's worse at the other end? Oh dear, I don't like change very much. What if you make that change and it's everything you've ever needed in your life to make it just the most perfect life you've ever had? What if it was the missing ingredient that now makes the soup of life the most delicious soup you've ever tasted? And what if you're afraid to fail, but what if instead you succeed? What if instead you absolutely crush those goals and you achieve all your dreams? And what if that fear of uncertainty, of the unknown, leads you to the most unexpected but delightful situation in life you could ever imagine? What if diving into uncertainty, you met your soulmate, you found your passion, you discovered a way to live your life that lights you up from the inside out? What if that's what that uncertainty brought? New, fresh, exciting things in your life. And what if instead of feeling like you're losing control, you embrace the chaos, jump in with both feet, and have a good frickin' time? Enjoy the fact that everything's changing. Make the most of each moment as it is, and know that you'll never see this exact moment again, and so soak in its goodness. Be joyful in the now. And be excited for what could possibly maybe come next. Woohoo! Yes! Give me more of this thing called life, please. Thank you very much. And what if instead of fearing judgment, thinking that people are going to say bad about you, what if you realize that the only people saying bad things about you are the people that are uncomfortable with their own selves? And instead offer those people some compassion and hope that they too can overcome their fears to do what they want, so they don't have to sit there judging people on the sidelines. That they too can jump into their own life with 2 feet, get excited, and blast the awesomeness off this thing we call life. Enjoy it to its fullest. And what if instead of being rejected, you were welcomed with open arms? For even the slightest possibility that you would be welcomed with open arms, would you not risk that possibility of rejection? Or would you rather just keep moving away from that forever, in the fear that maybe you won't be accepted? So F that. If you are not accepted, it was not meant for you. And that's just the fact about that. What is meant for you, you will be accepted. You will be welcomed with open arms. So if you are quote unquote rejected, that's okay. They're doing you a favor because they're guiding you on the right path in this life. They're guiding you to whatever it is that you're meant to be with. And the fear of getting hurt. Let me ask you, are you hurting already? Is it hurting you to not push forward with your dreams, to not do what you really want in life, to not wake up each day feeling excited, happy, joyful, like, heck yes, I've got this life thing on lockdown. I have got this. I am good. I am surrounding myself with amazing people. I am doing what it takes to fuel my passions and feed my soul. By not doing those things, are you not already feeling hurt, down? And so why do we fear getting hurt when we are hurting ourselves? And so when we can overcome, when we can start to notice these fears that we have inside of us, and we can just notice them, say, hey, fear, I see you. And fuck you, I'm doing it anyway. F you, fear, I am doing this anyways. And that, let me tell you, that is when life gets really freaking good. Whew, man, love talking about this stuff. I am so excited to hear from you what you took away from this episode. What did you take away? Which fears did you notice inside of you? Which ones do you already notice that you're attaching yourself to throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the year? Which one of these fears are holding you back? I want to know. Please find me on the Instagrams at CandiceJames.kj. Shoot me a DM. Tag me in the stories. Let me know what you took away from this episode. What are the fears you're holding on to? How are you going to overcome them? And what are you excited the most to say, F you, fear, I'm doing this anyways? And I want to challenge you, pick one thing that is scaring the crap out of you lately, that this fear has been holding you back from doing something that you know deep down has got to be done. You want to do it. It must be done. It's part of your soul's journey. And just go do it. Overcome that fear. Push through it. Do something about it. You know, stop living your life in this fear of any of these things, that something's bad's going to happen, and turn it around and say, what if something freaking awesome, amazing happens? And go with that, because that is where the beauty of this life lies. That is where you're going to find the joy, the happiness, the fulfillment, the passion, the purpose. That is when your soul's journey is going to be feeling fulfilled. And so, like I said, tag me on the Instagrams at CandiceJames.kj. Send me a message. Let me know what you took away from this. Share. If this felt good to you and you really love this episode, please do share with your friends, your family, with everyone. I appreciate you so much for being here. And until next time, peace. Did you know the number one thing holding people back from achieving their dreams and living their best life is their own mind? Or more specifically, the fears that your mind has created? I believe that in order to live your best life, you've got to feel the fear and do it anyway. That's why I've created a brand new audio program entitled Find Your Courage. I want to show you how to think, act, and behave like the powerful human you were meant to be, so you can finally live a life of fulfillment, passion, and joy. And the best part is this program is yours absolutely free. To register right now, simply visit CandiceJames.com/courage, and we can get started right now.